And lot 320 now is the model of The Cigarette Girl by Bruno Zach from around 1925, 1930. And I can start the bidding here at £14,000, at 14, and 15 now, and 16,000, and 17,000, and 17,000. Well, the artist's name is Bruno Zach, and he would have made this lady, certainly designed her, and then had her made out of bronze and carved ivory around about the year 1930. The Cigarette Girl's history we can trace back to the 1970s because we know when she was originally sold. She was sold by a gallery in London, central London, called EDIT03, and we know who bought her, and that was Sir Elton John. He had a great passion for Art Deco.
I'm very happy indeed to see this one because I sold it in the 1970s, so it's an old friend and is as beautiful as ever. She has strong features, very typically Bruno Zach, this face, with a rather pert, rather pretty nose and well-developed lips. Even see her teeth beautifully carved. The detail of this wonderful bow is very beautiful. It's quite three-dimensional.
First of all, it would have been a plasticine carving of this figure, just the bronze part to start with. It would then be hand-tooled and finished to get this high quality, nice little lines, the folds, the shoes. And then the ivory is joined to the bronze part by means of hidden screws or pins.
At this time, you get a very interesting sort of coming together of lots of different sort of cultural concerns. So in the 1920s, you get a sort of growth in the pornography industry, for instance. Of course, prostitution had been an area that had really grown in the 1900s, the 1910s. But I think in the 20s, what you'd get is a sort of a wider acceptance of the imagery of women, the imagery of women used to sell things.
I think that if we judge her expression and her stance, it is a little bit provocative and challenging in a rather flirtatious way, but perhaps flirtatious would also need to be coloured by the fact that she is probably a street walker looking for her next client.
It's very hard to say. She could just be a fashionable woman. She's not necessarily a prostitute, I don't think. I think she's more a liberated woman.
The Cigarette Girl represents a sort of very modern image of the woman. This could be a woman who frequented the kind of cabarets of Berlin in the 1920s. This is a woman dressed like a man, very masculine. And of course, this ties into a much bigger theme, bigger picture of how women's sexuality was being redefined in the 1920s. This is an age of the flapper girl and the garçon look, a more androgynous approach to the female body. So it really is a figure that represents a sort of an archetype of the woman, you know, the empowered masculine woman smoking a cigarette, aware of her sexuality and able to sort of coax men in a perhaps more subversive approach to sex.
Bruno Zach's women are very enigmatic. One is never quite sure who they are. And in fact, one's not very sure who Bruno Zach was. Very, very little information is known about him. He was born in the Ukraine and then travelled to Europe, to Austria and to Paris, and was a superb observer of the life that was going on around him.
The Cigarette Girl sits alongside some of Bruno Zach's more erotic pieces. There's another famous piece called The Riding Crop, which shows a half-nude woman dressed in sexy lingerie holding a crop in a sadomasochistic act behind her back. So a quite disturbing figurine. And of course the Cigarette Girl is sort of allied to that in the sense that it represents this very masculinized figure, suggests an idea of dominance and sadomasochism. There is a long history, of course, of women dressing as men. You can think of Madonna or Lady Gaga, or Annie Lennox is another example, perhaps a more sophisticated construction of gender and identity, but nevertheless still a very powerful tool to be used for the consumption of women.
Bruno Zach figures are quite rare. The very erotic figures are rarer still, so they're obviously sold in very small numbers. Something like this you could fully expect to pay £30,000–40,000 for, but she's a very sexy lady and it only needs two extremely rich people there that must have it, and who knows.
Well, we've put a pre-sale estimate on her of £20,000 to £30,000, which in Bruno Zach terms is probably reasonably modest. And lot 320 now is the model of the Cigarette Girl by Bruno Zach from around 1925, 1930. And I can start the bidding here at £14,000, at 14 and 15 now, and 16,000 and 17,000 and 18,000 and 19,000 and 20,000. The telephone. I can sell. And selling, all done.